So the news came out just recently that Sid Croft has passed away, and with his brother Marty passing away a few years before, it's sort of the end of an era for cult or camp television. I hate the word camp, but you guys know that already. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the world of Sid and Marty Croft. I've talked about them a little bit before in the video I did for Witchy Poo. It's just that video was mostly about star Billy Hayes, who is still awesome. And I wasn't sure if I had kind of a cynical tone in that video or not. I want to make absolutely sure that I am a fan of the Croft brothers and the work they've done. And today I'm just going to ramble a little bit about it, and it's going to be a little all over the place. I think anybody watching this video already knows who the Croft brothers are and everything they brought to the world of television. But of course, there's also a large amount of people who don't know, and that's actually kind of a sad thing. Why that is, let's sort of say it's a little strange. Sid and Marty Croft's work spanned for over 50 years, but for the most part, they seem to be locked in the world in the 1970s, and it's an era that their work it helped define that era, I guess, but it also never really escaped that era, which I think is sort of the reason why younger generations are flat out baffled by the likes of Puff and Stuff and Lidsville and the Bugaloos, because I guess if you weren't there in the 70s, and unless if you missed all the reruns too, you probably missed out on a lot of the appeal of their work. It's easy and maybe a little unfair to compare it to the works of Jim Henson, whose works with, the Muppets and Sesame Street has largely become timeless. They can exist in any era, whereas Puff and Stuff and Lidsville are very, very much the 1970s. The one property of the Croft brothers, though, that came the closest to escaping that 70s trap is the one I'm drawing today, which is Land of the Lost. The secret of that is just a very, very simple one. Dinosaurs are always going to be awesome, and they're always going to capture the imagination, no matter how much science is updated and says, oh, dinosaurs are covered in feathers now, that the dragging tail thing is wrong. Who cares? Because dinosaurs are always awesome. And I'm sure kids in the 70s who watched Land of the Lost really got a kick out of seeing dinosaurs on the screen every single week. I mentioned before in my Outer Limits video just how rare it was to see stop motion on television, for the obvious reason that stop motion is very expensive and very time consuming. So getting to see a show where dinosaurs showed up every week must have been a pretty huge thrill. Getting to see the likes of Grumpy the Tyrannosaurus or Dopey the baby brontosaurus, I'm sure kids really, really appreciated it back in those days. Not all the creatures were stop motion though, including the one we're drawing today, which is the Sleestak. I'm always surprised to hear that a lot of kids were terrified of the Sleestaks. It's, again, going back to my Outer Limits video and talking about how TV viewers were once really, really shocked and scared of the likes of the Zonti Misfits or the Architects of Fear. There's a lot of memories I see online, people sharing of how much the Sleestaks just scared the hell out of them, and I'm not here to judge, and I'm definitely not going to laugh at what scares people, because I'm sure there was plenty of things that scared me on television as a kid. If the Sleestaks are permanently ingrained in your brain, that's a pretty cool thing that the Croft brothers accomplished. They gave you something to remember, whether it was something happy and trippy like Puff and Stuff, or something outright terrifying like Bug-Eyed Lizard Men. As I was saying before, Land of the Lost is the property that's come the closest to having a pretty solid reboot. There have been other attempts at rebooting Sid and Marty Croft properties, such as Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, and for some reason they never really seem to last long. I think, again, because people just think of them as the 70s, and it's kind of hard for them to escape that. Land of the Lost had some reboots. First of all, there was the one in the 90s. I think it was on ABC and Nickelodeon, and that was actually a pretty good one, too. It had some very good effects by my old bosses, the Kyoto brothers, and it was a lot of fun to watch, even if you had no familiarity with the previous version. And then you get the movie reboot. Oh boy. I'm just gonna say Matt Lauer isn't the only thing that can suck it, because that movie really, really sucked. Anyway, the appeal of Land of the Lost, I think it goes beyond just the dinosaurs. I think it really is just the imagination, the wild, wild abandon of logic and reason, and just saying, you know what, we're jumping on the rapids and heading down to a world of dinosaurs. Really, a big part of the charm of Sid and Marty Croft is just saying, you know what, let's have fun. Give people what they want, which is imagination and abandon and escape and all sorts of fun characters, even if it is stinky hairy ape men. To the kids of yesteryear who grew up with Sid and Marty Croft, there's always going to be a place in your hearts just for the wonderful things they created, and who knows, maybe future generations can appreciate all the wonderful things that they've done, whether it's through a reboot or whether just re-watching those classic episodes. Rest in peace, Sid and Marty. Saturday mornings will never be the same again without you. Take care. Bye-bye.